Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is John. I'm a filmmaker slash creator and your host for Make Lemonade Podcast, where we talk about how to change our circumstances when life happens. In other words, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Today we'll be talking about taking action now, not later, which I hope gives you the motivation to take action towards your goals. Alright, guys, so we are here today. I am John, once again, your host for Make Lemonade Podcast, and today we are talking about taking action now, not later. Now, I don't know about you, but I've gone through this so many times when I say I want to do something and I don't do it. It's that simple. It's been, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start eating right. I'm going to start being healthy. I'm going to take a course. I'm going to start school. I'm going to start this. And it always happens that we say we're going to do something, but then we say this keyword that really, really deep inside we know it's not going to happen. We say, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it next time. I'm going to do it, next week. That's when I'll be ready, and I'm going to do it then. When that happens, we know right away inside of us that it's going to be very difficult to get to that area. And one of the things that I've realized in my own life going through this process is that the more that I put something off, the longer it's going to take to accomplish. And that is just a fact. Whether you want to start school, whether you want to start, anything pretty much, the longer you wait to do it, the longer it's going to be. And I know it can be, a daunting thing because you're thinking about how long it's going to take, what are you going to have to do, what are the sacrifices you're going to have to take, and you add everything up, and it just seems better to just do it tomorrow because it's overwhelming today. You have too much in your brain feels like you're going to explode, and you just want to leave things off for tomorrow. Well, today that's what I want to go ahead and focus on. And my whole point is for you to take action now and not later, because I know the effects of what it can happen. And so, and to go into this, I want to give you 3 things that I want to talk about. And that is, number 1, taking action. Number 2, when it gets confusing, don't stop. And number 3, consistency is key to finish. Now, with no further ado, let's get into it and talk about this so that you can take action now and not later. Okay, so point number 1 is take action. I wanted this to be a top of the list because I believe it's one of the most important aspects when it comes to really finishing a process, a goal, accomplishing something that you want to do. And the first thing that we always do is take action. Now, I've heard a lot of people, and even myself included, when we talk about ideas that we want to do, right? We say, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a business owner, or I want to be an entrepreneur. Whatever it is that we want to do, we know that there's a process. And we know that the first step is always the most important one, because it's what's going to lead us to going and accomplishing our goals. But it seems at times that it seems overwhelming. It seems too much for us, and the goal is too huge, maybe too heavy and burdensome, that taking action is delayed. And I've seen this so much with a lot of people when they talk about going to school, and they say they want to become something, but then they lower their standards because that would take too long for them. And then 4 or 5 years go by when they could have invested in that time to do what they wanted to do. Instead, they go do something else, work 2 jobs, work 3 jobs, or maybe, take another course, and they miss out on what they could have done and could have been. This is super, super important. I've seen this happen over and over again. People want to be a dentist, people want to be a doctor, and they take another step. They stop at a certain step, and they feel like they're not worthy. They feel like they're just not capable of doing it, and taking action just becomes another word that vanishes in the air, and it becomes something that is just oversaid, overdone, and it's not looked at as important and is belittled, in my opinion. So today I want to help you by taking action. Is the first thing that you need to do. You need to take action. And how do you take action? Well, first of all, if anything that I've seen from nature, from the way even our government works or have been working throughout past history, schools in all areas, you got to have a system in play. That's just the honest truth. You got to have something that you go by. You got to have something that you believe. You got to have something that keeps you motivated to go forward. If you don't have those things, it can be really difficult to get yourself ahead. Now, am I saying that that's what you need? No, because along the lines, we have seen through history that there have been people that have started, and throughout the time, they have in between created a system that they have come to know and share with others. But what I want to prevent you is from that longevity time of self-discovery, and instead focus on right now on taking time to really find out of a system that you want to do. And what do I mean by system? Because I know that's kind of it can be taken the wrong way, it can be taken the right way, but let me explain what system is. When you create a system, I want to explain it in the terms of nature, because that's one of the most things that we can relate to. Nature in itself, take for example a tree. A tree starts by a seed, and that seed needs water and needs sun. That tree, as it gets more water, it grows taller. As it gets more sun, it even grows even more. So the more sun and the more water it has, it grows. And then it also spreads seed. It does other things for animals, shelter, and then it grows, and then it delivers other trees in other areas through its seed in the process. So that is a system. The system is, in order for the tree to grow, it needs nutrition. It needs water. It needs sunlight. Those are the things that it needs for it to grow. In order to provide life, in order to provide help. So it needs that system. It needs that area to grow. And so the same thing comes with taking action. You need to have a system of growth. You need to have what is the tools that water you to grow. But you know that without the water can't be the only source, so you need another source to let you grow. As humans, we have different things that make you grow. Relationships, communication, resources, research. Those are the main things that help us grow to take action. So what is your plan of action? What are you doing to create your system? And how are you growing? Those are really simple ways to grow, to learn, and to take action in whatever it is that you want to do and accomplish. Number 2, we're going to talk about when it gets confusing, don't stop. This is one of the things that I've come to face every single time, and even now, like, I still face this. And let me explain the whole confusion thing, right? Because you're already at a part when you're taking action, right? You took your first step, you're going, and then it comes to the part in every situation, doesn't matter what you do, it comes to the part where something becomes difficult. And this is where the confusion starts. It becomes difficult. You reach a time where you're exhausted, when you come to a place where you're like stuck. You're like, I reached everything, I did what I was supposed to do, now what do I do? And this is the part when it gets confusing. I want to encourage you, don't stop. When I am reading a passage, or when I'm reading something, when the confusion in that book, okay, this is my example, when the confusion comes in that book, I know that that confusion is the most important part of reading that book. And the reason why it's the most important part, because it's the most complex part to understand. And this is where the reader wants you to pay the closest attention, because here is the main point. And this is what happens when confusion comes in. This is the part where every milestone is set. When confusion come in, when the difficulties come in, this is where I like to talk about where metal breaks, where it reaches its strength. And this is what this is. When metal comes to an absolute breaking point, it's where it's peak of strength. That's where the most that it can handle, and it bends, it breaks, and that's it for it, right? But you discover how much weight it can carry. And this is the process of how people measure how strong something is for metal. And so when it comes to us, when we're trying to accomplish something, when you're already taking action, you come to a place, you have reached the point of where something is super important, the lesson that you need to learn right now. And if you stop at this moment, you won't be able to see how far you can go. You won't be able to understand what is in front of you. So what do? You keep going. And the number one thing to do that I really encourage is I call a quick break. Take a quick break, not a long break. And when I mean a quick break, whether you be researching, whether you be reading, whether you be trying to accomplish something, take a quick break. If you are right now in school and you want to, it's getting hard for you, don't quit school. Don't stop. All you need to do is go find a way that you find a distress. Whether it be going to the park and just sitting there and letting the wind hit in you, whether it be go get an ice cream, whether it be something that really calms down yourself from this stress. And I want to encourage this, but I don't want you to take it the wrong way. I don't want you to do something that you've been fighting addiction from, or I don't want you to do something that's gonna hurt your body or hurt your mentality. No, that's not what I want you to do. It has to be something healthy that helps you move forward, because the purpose of this is not to stop. If you do something that's going to stop your thinking process, that's going to stop your way to going to a direction, then already you're going too far into it. So how do we stop this? Well, you don't stop. You look for something that can help you boost up yourself so that you won't stop. So when it gets confusing, it's the moment to pay the closest attention, because it's super important. And if it's something that you need to take a quick break, and then come back, because the most important part is what we're going to talk about next, which is consistency is the key to finish. So remember, find that thing that lets you keep going without harming yourself, without harming your thinking. Find it, whether it be taking a quick break, quick lunch, something that lets you refresh yourself. Just like if you were working out, you take a shower, you refresh yourself, and now you're ready to replenish your body again with nutrition. And that's pretty much what you're doing when it comes to this area of confusion, this area of toughness. You're figuring out where is your breaking point, and note it down, because the moment that you note it down, you know where you're at in this area. And now you can push yourself a little bit more and a little bit more and keep going. So that's what we're going to next. Consistency is key is point number 3. So let's go into it. All right, guys. So we are at our last point. Consistency is key to finish. I think so often in this process, when it comes to accomplishing something and we see little results or no results at all, it's really easy to quit. And when something is not working, where things are not going on, I like to say consistency is key to finish. One of the things that I've learned from woodworking, which is my example that I want to give you to staying consistent, is when I am in woodworking, and I recently started doing this, it's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in woodworking. I'm telling you, you can learn so much from nature from just watching. And the beautiful thing about consistency in woodworking is that you find a way to make things work. And that's the most beautiful thing about woodworking that I enjoy. When there is one perspective that I'm looking at and I can't get out of that perspective and trying to fix the way this, tools should go together, wood should go together, I go either to other people, I go through other places to read, to resources, to books, articles, people, videos, to find out a way to figure it out. And this is where tools and research comes handy. One of the most beautiful thing is that a wise person has many advisors. A wise person has many advisors. You ought to write that down, a quote. Many advisors. Why is it important to have many advisors to stay consistent? Because you need to have other perspectives, other views of how people see things. Because even though by yourselves you can go really far, with people you can be unstoppable. And the beautiful thing about this is that you have different opinions, you have different views, and the most important part here is for you, first of all, to keep yourself and your goal first, and see how you can solve these issues of no results, of doing the same thing over and over again. Because remember, there has to be growth. If there is no growth, then the only thing that can happen in this area is one or the other. One, either something happens by force, or the other, either you make a change that can help you out and staying consistent. One or the other. And what you want to do is have that choice to make that consistency change to either other people's perspective and other people's advice. So that's the one thing. The second thing that I want to tell you is a wise person listens to advice, and a foolish person despises correction. This is super important because I've learned it myself. I have been the fool person so many times, and I've learned that it's better to listen to wise advice, because if you listen to wise advice, it's gonna help you so much. When you're open-minded to listen to other people's perspective, you learn. And the most beautiful thing that I've learned is when I go to someone else within a different field and I ask that question and they give me their response to what their situation would be, sometimes you get a beautiful answer that would actually help you solve that area and that would keep you going, being consistent. And I have learned that there's many areas to solve things and different things that you can do to accomplish a goal, but you can't just look through one perspective. There's three eyes perspective: the bird view, the caliper view, and I believe the third one is, I don't remember right now, but it's three views that people are looking through. And so one is very far away when you see the whole picture, and one is when you're super close to it. And then I think one is the in-between look where you are not far away, but you are right in the middle. And so there are different perspectives that you look from, and to look for all three is super important. And sometimes you can't do it yourself. You can't look through all three because sometimes you are in the situation, sometimes you are right in the middle of the situation, and sometimes you are in the way back that you can see the whole perspective. And this is the beautiful thing about communication, relationship, and resources, because it helps you really get more eyes to see, how can I solve this issue? How can I stay consistent with what I'm doing? And that's why I read books. That's why I listen to people, and that's why my main source is the Bible, because that's my part of my foundation that helps me stand in what I believe. Because sometimes when you do listen to other people, their perspective and their view is surrounded by their culture, by their circumstances, and that's why one of the things, it's important to see different views, but it's also important to protect your heart, because what you believe is what's guiding you through it, and they're not going through your situation, you are. So you're gaining advice, you're gaining wisdom, but you're putting it into a perspective that you are going through, and that's the most important part, to stay consistent, because you are working with what people are telling you, and you're seeing, how could I use that in my situation? Does it match with what I believe? Does it match with my morals? Does it match with my values? Because, let's give a very vague illustration. You want to buy somebody a necklace, but then you ask a friend who, let's say, for example, came out of jail, is a thief, and tells you, oh, well, this is certain ways that you can steal it without buying it. Well, you go and check your morals, and you're like, well, I don't steal, right? I don't believe in stealing. I'm against stealing. I want to get this through purchasing. And so you got to look through a different perspective, and you got to understand what is already too far and what is, closer to what you believe, and really manage that to what best fits you. And so this is the key to consistency. Consistency is key to finish. This is super important to take with you, so don't forget it. Alright guys, so we have come to our conclusion of taking action now, not later. So let's go real quick and summarize what we talked about in a quick summary. And number one, we talked about take action. What did we talk about in taking action? We talked about finding a system. We also talked about the system helps you grow. We talked about through nature. We gave examples through that. Also, we talked about how it helps to have a plan of action. A system that helps you grow always has a plan of action. Number two, we talked about when it gets confusing, don't stop. And in that subject, we talked about that confusion. When you reach that point of confusion, it is the test of your strength. Also, it is where milestones are built. This is super important when you get to those areas. It is the most important part. This is one of the things we talk about. It's the most important part of the lesson. When an author is trying to make a point and it gets confused, that is the most important part that you need to pay the most attention to. Another thing we talked about in between that time, when it gets hard, find a distress with quick breaks. And what does that break have to do? Well, breaks are not breaks don't harm you. They actually help you move forward. Okay, so quick breaks are for health, and it helps you move forward. Number 3 point is we talked about consistency is key to finish. So find ways to make things work. Find a different point of views. Super important to help you see from a different point of views. And lastly, make the change. Don't let the change. Make the change. Don't let it change you. And so that's the most important part to really focus on. So we talked about those 3 things, and I hope that you were motivated, that you were encouraged to move forward towards your goal, towards your vision, towards what you want to finish, and accomplish it and take action now, not later. Alright guys, thank you so much for listening. This is John, your host, and we'll talk to you later. Peace.